I am gay. I didn't choose to be gay.
It's really fruitful to inquire into what Jesus said about homosexuality, so let's do it now. Okay, we're done. Jesus never mentions homosexuality, never talks about it.
Argument number one is the argument that Jesus never addressed homosexuality.
You would think that if homosexuality were something that's so important, it would appear in the Gospels. So Jesus didn't hold back in critiquing his society and in taking unpopular stands. He lived in a time where homosexuality was widespread in the Roman occupation of the land of Israel. And if homosexuality were important, he certainly would have said something.
Jesus never said anything about homosexuality. Well, number one, that's not true. Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount talks about porneia. He talks about sexual impurity, which is a reference to the porneia code in Leviticus 18, which clearly upholds the idea that homosexuality is sinful. And if that's not what he's doing, we've got a huge problem, because Leviticus 18 also talks about incest, and we get some bestiality in there and some other stuff in there. So if our new Christian ethic is only if Jesus talked about it specifically, then homosexuality is the least of our problems. But Jesus did address the issue of homosexuality, because he addressed the issue of sexual impurity. He addressed the issue of fornication. He also addressed the issue of marriage and the nature of marriage. But here's the other problem. In doing this, we divorce Jesus from the rest of the Bible. And we let people do that. We let them do that. Well, Jesus never said anything about it. And then we just start scratching our heads and going, when people say that, you just look at them and say, so? You can't divorce him from the rest of the Bible. You can't do that. And the reason people continue to do this is because it works. But here's the other issue. Well, Jesus never said anything about homosexuality. And I'm just going to go ahead and be honest. I may have told y'all this last time I was here. There's this guy, kind of lives on the inside of me. His name is Bad Voddie. Everything is cool as long as I let him out every once in a while. Go to the gun range or jiu-jitsu tournaments. We're cool. But sometimes when I'm dealing with people like this, he wants to talk to him, and I just really have to try to not let him do that, because I ain't even sure that brother's saved sometime. But at any rate, Bad Voddie gets excited when people bring this up. He does, because they're like, well, Jesus never talked about homosexuality. Dear friend, Jesus is a member of the Godhead. Jesus has existed eternally in perfect union with the Father and the Spirit, which means when rocks of fire and brimstone were coming down on Sodom and Gomorrah, he was not absent, nor was he in disagreement.
The heart of Scripture's teaching is that marriage is about commitment, that it's about keeping one's covenant with one's spouse in the same way that God keeps his covenant with us. And that's something that same-sex couples can do just as well as opposite-sex couples can.
Homosexuality is sin. The Bible makes it very clear that it is a sin. Romans chapter 1, for example, makes it very clear that homosexuality is a sin, that these are unnatural desires. So first and foremost, homosexuality harms the person who engages in the practice. This practice of sodomy, or unnatural affections, unnatural sexual acts, harms the individual who is practicing them. Number one, because in many ways it dehumanizes them. The essence of our humanity is that we're created in the image of God. God creates us in his image, and he creates us male and female, these two corresponding halves of humanity. And the bringing together of these two corresponding halves in a one flesh union that we call marriage is the essence of what it means to be human. It's the essence of what it means for man to be made in the image of God. When we turn this around and turn men toward men and women toward women, we are actually dehumanizing and degrading ourselves. This is harmful, not only to every human being who engages in the practice, but to all of humanity itself when we embrace this inhuman, if you will, approach to human sexuality. Secondly, homosexuality is harmful because it harms the gospel. Marriage is a living, breathing picture of the relationship between Jesus Christ and his bride, the church. Marriage says something about the gospel. Marriage paints a picture of the gospel. And when we turn our idea of marriage into something that is directly opposed to what God says about us and about himself, then we are doing harm. We're doing harm to the message of the gospel. We're doing harm to the name of Christ. So again, it's a false premise, the idea that you can have sinful practices that don't harm anyone. They harm the people who engage in them, and they harm the message of the gospel.